everyone, Dr. D here. I am excited to be here with you this morning because I want to teach you something really important. I want to teach you about the difference between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and how grief reveals the difference. As you're going through your grief journey, how grief can reveal the difference. I see this light, the sun is coming in through the window. So just keep eyes on me. So this is a simple yet transformational topic, right? Because the difference between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, especially as you're walking through grief, loss, and even any type of transition, it can really have a way of exposing who we are, who we think we are, who we know we are, the challenges that we understand, and the demand that can happen when we have to walk in wisdom, right? Walking in wisdom. So let's dive deep. Not going to be long today, but this is a really important concept. So knowledge. So knowledge is information. Knowledge is information. Knowledge is what we have been told, particularly let's talk about grief. Knowledge is what we've been told about grief. So the facts we research the stages of grief, right? Knowledge says that time heals all wounds, and we know that's not true. Knowledge says that everyone grieves differently. That is absolutely true. Knowledge says stay strong, keep pushing, right? Keep going through. Knowledge is that head level awareness that we have about what grief is and what grief means and what it's about. But when you think about it, knowledge alone doesn't tell us what we need to do when grief hits us at 2 o'clock in the morning. Knowledge alone doesn't comfort us during our grief journey when no one is there. It doesn't hold us when the room gets quiet. It doesn't guide us when those waves of grief show up, and they show up unexpectedly, right? Because they will. They will show up unexpectedly. So I want you to think for a minute about one thing that you knew in your knowledge base about grief before you experienced it. Before you actually were the one to experience grief, what did you know about it? Did you know those 5 stages of grief? Did you know what grief was? Did you know what to expect? So think about what you knew about knowledge, about grief before you experienced it. So now let's go to understanding. What is understanding? Knowledge is what you know, but understanding is insight. Understanding is insight to me. It's that thing that you, it's just different. It happens when grief becomes personal, right? Understanding is when grief becomes personal. You know, I understand grief now because I'm going through it. I understand grief now because it's a part of my life. So understanding is when grief becomes personal and it becomes a part of you. It becomes what you know based on what you're experiencing, right? Understanding is, wow, this really has the ability to change my mindset, to change who I am, to change what I think. Understanding is what I knew about grief and loss is different now that it's become personal to me. Understanding is, that research may not really apply to me because how grief has hit me, it has hit me differently. And especially as a leader and as an entrepreneur, grief can hit you differently because how it impacts your ability to lead, how it impacts your ability to manage your business, how it impacts your ability to think strategically, right? So understanding is personal when it comes to your knowledge of grief. It's something different when you understand something from how it engages with you on a personal level. It's, what rises after the funeral. It's what rises after the crowd, after those peace lilies stop coming. That's understanding. Understanding says, this hurts more deeply than I ever expected. This has changed my identity. It's changed my thinking, my energy. And then understanding can also be, I'm grieving multiple things at once. I have a client who, she's not only grieving the loss of her dad, she is grieving the fact that her dad will never be able to walk her down the aisle when she gets married. Grieving multiple things at one time. That's understanding. I understand that now. I realize, I have this saying about my grief journey, that I didn't choose grief. Grief chose me in a big way. I didn't choose grief. Grief chose me. And my understanding is that now I must navigate it. I must navigate what has chosen me. When you understand that, that's something deep. When you watch this video, if you understand your grief journey now, I want you to just type "I understand" in the chat. Because when you get to that point, first is the recognition. That's another framework. But then there's the understanding. Why don't you just type "I understand" in the chat? That's knowledge and that's understanding. The third part is wisdom. Wisdom is special because wisdom is the application of what you know and what you understand. Wisdom is the application and the alignment. The application and the alignment. Wisdom is what you do with what you know and what you understand. Wisdom asks the question, how do I move forward with clarity? How do I take care of myself while still leading others? How do I rebuild my strength and restore my voice? How do I rebuild my strength and restore my voice? Wisdom is that action. It's that alignment. Wisdom is the surrendering of the weight and choosing healing and resetting boundaries. I didn't say creating boundaries. I said resetting those boundaries. That's wisdom. It's seeking support. It's being honest about your capacity. And it's allowing grief to grow you and not break you. I have a piece that I do in my webinars. I actually did it yesterday, which has a picture of grief in a jar. And grief is in our heart, right? Because it's something that we loved and we cared for. But it shows grief in the jar at a large state. And then as the jar grows, grief stays the same. Because if you think about it, grief is always going to be with us. Always. But we grow and we evolve around grief. So it doesn't disappear. It doesn't shrink. We grow around it. So it's allowing grief to grow and not break you. That's what wisdom is. Wisdom says, I can't lead from empty. Rest is not weakness. I need structure and support, and it can't be done alone. I'm rebuilding who I am with intention, and I need some help. The Bible says a fool is right in his own sight. We all need counsel. We all need coaching. We all need somebody to pour into us. And we can't live this life alone. But we have to rebuild with intention because wisdom can turn your grief into growth. I teach this concept about life quakes, right? I'm giving away all my frameworks. You got to come to my class. And, we learn in this that wisdom can help turn that pressure into our power, can help turn that pressure into our power. It can turn things that were meant to break us into a breakthrough. You know that you can control your breakthrough. God definitely can give us a breakthrough and guide us through, but you have the ability to control your breakthrough. That's what wisdom is. That's what wisdom can teach us. Now, when we take knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, and tie it in for leadership and for entrepreneurs and even my faith-driven visionaries, grief doesn't pause our responsibility, but wisdom teaches us to lead differently. I absolutely lead differently. When I was president and CEO of nonprofits and commissioner at New York City government and doing all the things, I was leading a certain way. But as I went through my grief journey, and now as a leader, as an entrepreneur on the other side and through my grief journey, I show up differently. I show up differently. Knowledge tells me that my grief is real. Understanding shows me that my grief is personal. But wisdom has empowered me to rise again, and it can empower you. It can empower you to rise again, stronger, clearer, more grounded, and more compassionate. Stronger, clearer, more grounded, and more compassionate. People watch my videos and say, Dr. D, you close your eyes a lot because you don't know when that statement or that phrase hits. It's something that you just have to tune in and let everything else go and hear it. Stronger, wiser, clearer, and more compassionate. That's what grief does when it comes to wisdom. Amazing when you get to that point in your grief journey. So I want you to reflect on this. I want you to ask yourself 3 questions, and I always like to leave you with something. So I'm going to leave you with 3 questions, 3, that I want you to ask yourself as you're on this journey. What do you know about your grief? Your knowledge. What do you know about your grief? Your knowledge. What are you beginning to understand about how it's changed you? Your understanding. What are you beginning to understand about how your grief has changed you? That's your understanding piece. You ready for your wisdom piece? Your wisdom piece is, what wisdom do you need to walk away with today? From this talk, whenever you are watching it, what wisdom do you need to understand and walk away with today? Is it boundaries? Is it rest? Is it clarity? Is it support? Is it healing? I put boundaries first because a lot of times it's learning about those boundaries. So what wisdom do you need to walk away with today? I want you to take a moment and just breathe. Just breathe. Because the answers that you need will come once you stay focused on the questions and yourself. So I want to leave you with one more thing as you think about those 3 questions. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Knowledge informs you. It gives you new information that you didn't have. Understanding has the ability to transform you because now it's personal. So it can transform your thought process. It can transform how you see something. So understanding can transform you, but wisdom can restore you. Wisdom can give you that restoration, that new life, that transformation that nothing else can give you. And when grief is met with wisdom, it can become your gateway to your next level of purpose. I can say it's mine. Something that was always in me was ignited. I was propelled into it because of my grief journey. So wisdom can become your gateway to your next level of purpose in your leadership, in your business, in your personal life, and within yourself. But remember, you were never to walk through this without guidance. You were never meant to walk through this alone. So reach out, get a coach, because you don't have to walk through this by yourself. We can walk in community with one another. And I'm here for you. This is Dr. D. You know how to reach me. Email is drdee@darlenewilliams.com. DRDEE drdarlenewilliams.com. Take care. I'll see you later.